Picture this. You pull into a gas station. Doesn't matter which one. Could be the Shell on the corner, the Exxon off the highway, whatever's closest. You grab the nozzle, squeeze the handle, and nothing. Screen's dark, pumps locked. All of them. Every pump locked, every drop of remaining fuel redirected to the military. If you weren't wearing a uniform or driving a government vehicle, you weren't getting gasoline. Period. And fuel was only the start. 4 days later, the lights went out. 7 precision drone strikes hit Sevastopol's main power substation in a single night. Rolling blackouts swept the peninsula. Streetlights went dark. Water pressure dropped in parts of the city, not because anyone hit the water supply, but because the electric pumps that push water through the pipes had no power to run. Repair crews tried to get close to the damage. They couldn't. Every time they approached, another drone alert forced an evacuation. So the substation sat there, smashed, in the dark, untouched. No fuel, no power. And then came the part nobody was ready for. Every northern road into Crimea was cut, bridges destroyed, pontoon replacements blown apart within days of being built, railway lines severed at multiple points. By June 26th, 2,800 vehicles were lined up at the Kerch Strait ferry crossing, waiting to get off the peninsula. Nearly twice as many trying to leave as trying to get in. Russia's own appointed governors declared a state of emergency on the territory Moscow said it would hold forever. And here's a detail you should file away. Satellite images captured by a company called Vantor show something unusual on the Kerch Bridge. Smoke generators, military-grade machines positioned along the span, designed to pump out clouds of dense fog and hide the bridge from the sky. Russia is trying to make a 19-kilometer bridge disappear. The last physical connection between Crimea and the Russian mainland, and they're wrapping it in smoke like a warship trying to slip through a blockade. Hold on to that image. We're coming back to it. And then the number that explains all of it. There's a road that runs along the northern coast of the Sea of Azov. It's called the Novorossiya Highway. 700 kilometers of blacktop slicing through occupied southern Ukraine, connecting Russia's mainland supply depots to Crimea's northern border. For over 2 years, this highway was Russia's main artery. Fuel tankers, ammunition trucks, flatbeds loaded with equipment, military haulers of every size. They ran this road day and night, grinding south through territory Moscow thought it controlled. Ukraine decided to choke that artery, not with cruise missiles or artillery barrages, with cheap, domestically built drones. Small enough to launch from the bed of a pickup, smart enough to lock onto a fuel tanker rolling at highway speed in the middle of the night, and so inexpensive that losing a dozen of them to kill a single target still makes economic sense. The results hit fast. In the space of 2 weeks, Russian military cargo traffic on the Novorossiya highway fell by 71%. Not a dip, not a slowdown, a collapse. Drivers started refusing the run. Convoys that moved at night tried switching to daylight, hoping visibility would help them spot incoming drones. It didn't. Tankers burned on the roadside, wreckage stacked up at choke points, and every truck that went up in smoke was fuel, food, or ammunition that never reached Crimea. But Ukraine wasn't only hitting the road, they were hitting both ends of the supply chain at once. On June 20th, a strike slammed the Kerch oil terminal. This is the main fuel receiving depot on Crimea's eastern coast, right where the peninsula reaches toward Russia across the strait. The explosion threw a column of black smoke so high and so dense you could see it from 50 kilometers away. 30 miles of sky turned black from a single hit. That same period, The TES Terminal Oil Transshipment Complex in Kerch took strikes. This is the facility that receives bulk fuel shipments and distributes them to stations and military depots across the peninsula. It's the central nervous system of Crimea's fuel supply, and it was burning. One day later, June 21st, another strike hit Port Kavkaz. Now, Port Kavkaz isn't even in Crimea. It's on the Russian side of the Kerch Strait. The fuel loading facility that fills tankers heading across the water to the peninsula caught fire. Think about what happened in 48 hours. Ukraine hit the supply highway, hit the receiving depot, hit the distribution hub, and then crossed the water and hit the loading terminal on the Russian side. Every link in Crimea's fuel chain struck in sequence, like running a finger down a checklist and crossing off every line. That's when Russia killed the pumps. June 21st, every civilian gas station on the peninsula locked, all remaining reserves military only. You're a family in Simferopol trying to drive to work, trying to get groceries, trying to reach a clinic. Too bad, the army needs what's left, and you're not the army. No gas in the car, no diesel for the generators, no fuel anywhere that doesn't have a military stamp on it. And the worst part is, you can't even sit in the dark and wait it out. Because the dark was coming too. Robert Bravdi, remember that name? He commands Ukraine's drone forces. On June 25th, he confirmed what the residents of Sevastopol already knew from sitting in pitch-black apartments. 7 precision strikes hit the city's main power substation in a single night. 7, not spread across a week, not staggered over several days, one night. Sevastopol is the largest city in Crimea. It houses Russia's Black Sea Fleet headquarters. It's the command center for Russian military operations across the entire southern theater. And its main electrical grid just got hammered 7 times before the sun came up. The blackouts rolled across the peninsula like a wave, not the kind where the lights flicker and snap back on, the kind where an entire district goes dark for hours. You're sitting in your kitchen and the refrigerator hums to silence. The streetlights outside your window cut off. The traffic signals at the intersection down the block go dead. And here's the thing that makes it worse than just an inconvenience. Water pressure dropped in parts of the city. The electric pumps that push water through the municipal pipes need current to run. No electricity, no pump, no pressure. You turn the faucet and get a trickle. Or nothing. The obvious fix is to send a repair crew, get electricians to the substation, patch what you can. They tried, but every time a crew got within working distance, another drone alert sounded across the city. Protocol says evacuate, so the crews pulled back, waited, started again. Another alert, pulled back again. You can't fix what you can't get near. The substation sat there, damaged and exposed, while the people responsible for repairing it spent their shifts running to shelters. And it wasn't just Sevastopol. A thermal power plant in Kerch's Arshensevo district took a direct hit. The fuel oil storage tank ignited. The smoke plume stretched across the sky for nearly 50 kilometers. 2 major energy targets burning in the same week on a peninsula that had already lost its fuel supply. No gas, no electricity, 2 of the 3 pillars gone. But at least people could still drive out, get north, find a road to safety. Right? Wrong. And the answer is written across every map of the peninsula in burned concrete and twisted steel. Pull up a map of Crimea. Look at the northern edge where the peninsula connects to occupied Ukrainian territory. There are 3 main crossings, 3 bridges, 3 roads, 3 ways to drive off this slab of land. In June of 2026, Ukraine destroyed or crippled every single one. June 7th through the 9th, the Chandhar Bridge, primary road crossing on the eastern side of the land connection. Ukrainian forces hit it over 3 consecutive days until the span was impassable. Traffic stopped, the road dead-ended at broken concrete. June 11th, the Armyansk crossing. Western route threading through the city of Armyansk at the narrowest point of the isthmus. Ukraine didn't just damage the road, they caught a column of 50 Russian military vehicles stacked up at the crossing and destroyed them. 50 vehicles burning in a line on the approach, the crossing became a graveyard. June 13th, Russia scrambled, built a pontoon replacement at Chandhar. Temporary floating sections bolted together to carry traffic. Ukraine hit the pontoon, destroyed it. 6 days after the original bridge went down, its replacement followed. June 20th, the Henichesk Bridge on the region's eastern edge took heavy damage. Another crossing rendered unreliable. Then came the railways. June 19th, strikes hit railway bridges at Rozdoln and Vladislavivka, two key junctions in Crimea's internal rail network. June 23rd, Ukraine's Special Operations Forces went after the railway bridge over the North Crimean Canal and destroyed it completely. When Russia sent heavy repair equipment to the site, a follow-up attack destroyed that too. Not just the bridge, the machines you'd use to rebuild it. Before June, 14 trains ran daily across Crimea. By the last week of the month, 7, all of them terminating in Kerch. People who assessed the situation, no fuel, no power, no road north, and made a calculation. Here's the detail that tells you everything about the mood. Nearly twice as many vehicles were queued to leave Crimea as were lined up to come in. Sea transport in Sevastopol Bay suspended. Summer camps across the peninsula canceled. Tourism shut down. Outdoor events banned. And on that same Friday, Russia's own appointed governors declared a state of emergency. Now, stay with me on this because this part matters more than it looks. Russia framed the state of emergency as an economic measure, force majeure. That's a legal term, meaning circumstances beyond anyone's control. The practical result is that it releases the government and businesses from contractual obligations. Insurance claims, lease agreements, delivery commitments, all of them can be suspended or voided under force majeure. It shields the state from compensation lawsuits, but a state of emergency does something else. It gives authorities the power to restrict civilian movement, to dictate who goes where and when. Moscow said this was about economics. Maybe it was. But when you declare emergency powers on a peninsula where thousands of people are already lined up to leave, the distance between protecting the economy and controlling the population gets razor thin. And beneath all of it, beneath the fuel bans, the blackouts, the blown bridges, and the vehicle queues stretching down the coast, there's one number that explains why none of this is going to stop. In 2023, when Ukraine first hit the Chandhar Bridge, they used Storm Shadow missiles, British-made, air-launched, precision-guided cruise missiles with a stealth profile and a price tag of roughly $2 million each. The bridge took damage, Russia repaired it, and each strike cost Ukraine not just the weapon, but a slice of its limited, Western-supplied stockpile. Every Storm Shadow that flew was one fewer in the inventory. And the supply line from London ran on political will, not automation. Fast forward to June 2026, Ukraine struck the same bridge again, and the pontoon replacement, and the Henichesk crossing, and railway bridges at three separate locations, and fuel depots, and power substations, and tanker convoys on a 700-kilometer highway, all in the same month. The weapon doing most of this work is called the Behemoth, Ukrainian-designed, domestically produced, an anti-bridge drone built for exactly this kind of campaign. Its cost? Under $50,000. 50,000 versus 2 million. That's a ratio of 40 to 1. For every single Storm Shadow from 2023, Ukraine can now build and launch 40 behemoths. And they don't need to call London or wait on a congressional vote. They don't need an export license or a diplomatic favor. They build them at home, on their own production lines, on their own schedule. This is why Russia cannot keep up. You can't repair a bridge faster than an enemy that can send 40 drones at it for the price you'd pay for one old missile. You can't keep a highway open when the cost of closing it down is spare change compared to the cost of defending it. The math is broken, and it's broken permanently. Ukraine knows it. Defense Minister Fedorov announced 5 billion hryvnia in additional funding for the drone units, producing the best frontline results. That's about $113 million. Not a one-time emergency allocation, targeted investment in a permanent, scaling, domestically fueled production pipeline. The 40 to 1 ratio isn't a lucky break, it's an industrial strategy. And it just made Crimea's supply crisis irreversible. But all those numbers, all that strategy, all that production capacity, they all converge on one single point, one structure. 19 kilometers of steel and concrete spanning the Kerch Strait, the Kerch Bridge, Russia's last link, the only remaining physical connection between the peninsula and the mainland. When Russia finished building it in 2018, the bridge was a trophy, a political monument in concrete and cable. Crimea is ours. This bridge proves it. Putin drove a truck across the opening day ceremony himself. State television covered it like a national holiday. Now look at the satellite images. Vantor, the commercial imagery company, captured them in late June. Zoom in on the bridge deck. You'll see shapes that shouldn't be there. Equipment that was never part of the design. Smoke generators. Military-grade machines meant to pump out thick, obscuring clouds to hide the span from aerial surveillance and inbound drones. Russia is trying to make a 19-kilometer bridge vanish. Sit with that for a second. The country that built this structure as a victory monument, as permanent proof that Crimea belongs to Moscow, is now wrapping it in artificial fog. Not reinforcing it with more steel, not lining it with air defense batteries so thick nothing could get through, hiding it, like a ship trying to slip past a blockade in the dark. That's not confidence. That's a country that has done the same math we just walked through and knows what the answer says, because if the Kerch Bridge goes down, Crimea becomes an island. Not on a map. It's always been a peninsula, but in every way that matters. No fuel arriving by road, no power grid connections to the mainland, no land crossings north, no functioning railway. The only thing keeping supplies flowing, troops rotating, and 2 million civilians from total isolation is one bridge that Russia is already trying to hide from the sky. And the drones that would hit it cost less than a new F-150. Remember the gas station, the one from the beginning, pump locked, screen dark, every station on the peninsula sealed shut. That was barely a week and a half ago. Since then, the power grid took 7 strikes in a single night, Water pressure dropped, streets went black, every bridge heading north was destroyed or wrecked, the railway network was cut in half, 2,800 vehicles lined up at the strait to get out, and Russia declared a state of emergency on a territory it told the world it would never give up. Out of everything we walked through today, the thing that sticks is the simplest part. A drone that costs under $50,000 is doing the same job that used to demand a $2 million missile, 40 to 1. That ratio is the entire story. Because it means Ukraine doesn't need a single dramatic breakthrough to change the strategic map. They just need to keep building, keep flying, keep hitting. The math handles the rest. Crimea isn't collapsing in one spectacular moment. It's being disconnected, system by system, bridge by bridge, fuel line by fuel line. The three things that make any modern territory function, energy, power, and transportation, are being stripped away in sequence. Take all three, and what's left isn't an occupied peninsula, it's a liability. 2 million people on a slab of land that your military can barely supply, your engineers can barely repair, and your government can barely explain to the public back home. What happens to the Kerch Bridge will say a lot about where this war goes next. If it holds, Russia buys time. Expensive, painful, difficult time, but time. If it doesn't hold, the entire southern front changes overnight. And the satellite images already tell us which outcome Russia is betting on. You don't hide a bridge if you think you can defend it. So here's my question for you. Which part of this landed the hardest? And the satellite images already tell us which outcome Russia is betting on. You don't hide a bridge if you think you can defend it. So here's my question for you. Which part of this landed the hardest? And the satellite images already tell us which outcome Russia is betting on. You don't hide a bridge if you think you can defend it. So here's my question for you. Which part of this landed the hardest? And the satellite images already tell us which outcome Russia is betting on. You don't hide a bridge if you think you can defend it. So here's my question for you. Which part of this landed the hardest?